All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0, of course, are brought to you by the official beer of the program, Johnny Cuba. Go to johnnycuba.us. Use the Johnny locator. You find the nearest location to you. Available in a bunch of new locations now for football season. Enjoy European roots, a Caribbean soul. It's a refreshing German lager in a can. How else are we going to watch Monday Night Raw tonight on Netflix? Of course, we're going to have a Johnny Cuba in our hands while we're sitting on the Zaslow Mansion family couch in our underwear. Make sure you always drink responsibly. And don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Ruthie Polinsky joining us here. Always great speaking to our friend Ruthie, who we haven't seen in a bit since she moved to Chicago and is becoming a bigger star every season. Ruthie, great to see you. How are you doing?
Great to see you, Zaz. Doing great. Loving it here. Chicago summers are special, I'll tell you what. And it's been hotter than I think people were used to. The Dolphins were just here and they were looking for a little reprieve from that humidity and heat. And it's like been one of the hottest weekends of the year. So I do feel for them, but I know it's different than that South Florida heat. So it was a fun weekend. It was good to see all the Miami guys, all the Miami reporters that were in town. And I got to hang out with Mike Cugno. You know, it was like the good old days.
So I want to talk to you about what you saw yesterday at Soldier Field with Dolphins and Bears. First, though, which of the Chicago teams do you enjoy covering? Do you enjoy being around the most?
It's got to be the Bears. It's such a Bears town. Obviously, last year got a little ugly for that team, and it's obviously really hard to cover a team in the middle of a 10-game losing streak. But I think it's such a Bears town, and there's such a new infused sort of energy around the team right now with Ben Johnson and the excitement about Caleb Williams taking that year 2 leap. I think there's really a fun buzz in the city when there's hope for the Bears. And so that's really been such a joy. Obviously, it's a great sports town. The Cubs are good. I mean, they're kind of in a little bit of a slump right now, but they're hopefully going to be a wild card team, and the city is on fire when the Cubs are good. I'm currently coming to you from Rate Field, where the White Sox play, who are this young sort of rebuilding team that I've gotten to pop in on the pre and post game shows every once in a while and cover that team, which is a really fun, it's no stakes for the White Sox. Like, they're just trying to, develop the young guys, which has been really fun and cool to see. So obviously I'm around the Bulls a lot too. So it's just a great sports town. It's hard to pick one, but I will give you the answer of the Chicago Bears.
So tell everyone who misses seeing you here on a regular basis where you are specifically, what you are doing in Chicago right now.
Yeah, so when I first got here, I was working for NBC and NBC Sports Chicago, similar to when I was with NBC6 in Miami, South Florida. And I was kind of back and forth between NBC Sports Chicago and NBC. When NBC Sports Chicago was there, they were the rights holders for the Bulls, Blackhawks, and White Sox. And so we broadcast all of those games. I had the opportunity to fill in on some pre and post game shows. I was doing sideline for the Bulls games every once in a while. And when the rights agreement expired with NBC, it didn't renew. So those 3 teams, the Bulls, the Blackhawks, and the White Sox, launched a new network that they own. It's called Chicago Sports Network, as you can see behind me. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And so we are owned by the teams. And when the networks launched, they have made the very educated decision, because if we're going to call ourselves the Chicago Sports Network, we have to recognize the Bears, even though we're not partners with the Bears, but this is a Bears town, 12 months a year, whether they're, 5-12 or, 10-7. This is a town where the Bears matter. So we do a daily show, 30 minutes. It's called the Big Pro Football Show, and we cover the Bears every day, 12 months a year. And so we're coming up on a year of Chicago Sports Network in October, which is crazy. So it's been really cool to sort of be a part of a startup, and the way that these RSNs are working right now and sort of the nature of the business. It's really cool to sort of be at the front of this new way to watch and consume your teams.
That's awesome. I will let my mother know. She's a big Ruthie Polinsky fan. My mother misses watching you on NBC6 down here. Ruthie, let's talk about yesterday. Why didn't Caleb Williams play? What was the rationale behind that?
Yeah, Ben Johnson's taken a lot of national heat today, I think, for not playing Caleb Williams. And his argument was that he held a practice there were about 9 offensive starters and 9 defensive starters that didn't play yesterday. And Ben Johnson's rationale for that was that he felt he was going to have more benefit by holding a practice at Soldier Field in the morning with those offensive starters. And they ran about 70 plays, over 70 plays with those starters. I think for him, he found more value in getting reps that way than he did with his team, playing 1 or 2 series. Now, do I agree with that? I've been at most training camp practices over the course of, the last couple of weeks, and Caleb Williams needs a lot of work. He is not ready for week 1. It's a new offense. It's a complex offense.
Like, how does he look compared to this time last year? Like he looks the same level of not ready?
It's very hard to assess with the 2 very different coaching staffs. I think we are seeing a lot of corrections on the field from Ben Johnson that we didn't see Matt Eberflus do at this time last year. Ben Johnson is not afraid to shut it down, pull the first team offense off the field, and throw the second team offense and be like, nope, you guys missed your shot. You got it wrong. Go figure it out. And so I think we've seen a lot more of just sort of holding these guys accountable, which makes you feel like they're behind. It's hard for me to tell you how they were last year in a Shane Waldron offense that was not as complex as a Ben Johnson offense, and just a very different coaching style, and the way that they're holding these guys accountable. So I think he looks similar. It's getting better. I'll say that the pre-snap operation is really where they were honing in on saying, you got to be able to get in and out of the huddle with the play clock, get these long play calls into these guys, get everyone lined up correctly, and snap the ball. What's happening post snap is beside the point. I think at this point, that was really where they were struggling initially. It's gotten better over the course of training camp. So, and then we'll be able to sort of dissect how is it looking post snap. The biggest thing for Caleb Williams this year is you got to take less sacks. You got to get the ball out. And I know everyone wants to blame. It was a dysfunctional system last year. They had a terrible offensive line. Well, guess what? This year, you have Ben Johnson. He was the belle of the ball. He was the offensive play caller that everyone wanted this offseason. And you overhauled your entire offensive line. You have a first-round draft pick at right tackle. You have 3 veteran, really well-established, respected interior offensive linemen, and you have a little bit of a competition going on at left tackle right now. That's really the main piece, but everyone's saying the offensive line could be the strength of the Chicago Bears. So that's something people haven't heard here forever, and I think it's the no excuses tour for Caleb Williams this year is kind of how people are viewing it. It's obviously going to be his first year in a new offense, but you've seen Caleb Williams do the special. He's so good at the off-schedule, playmaking ability with his legs, extending plays. That's what he's good at. That's why he was the number 1 overall pick. We need to see him be able to get the ball out quickly, in rhythm, with timing, in the system, do the little things right. And get the ball in the hands of your playmakers, and they have a plethora of different guys for him to choose from. So that's really going to be where we can assess his growth in year 2. And I think we were all sort of hoping to get a little peek of that yesterday, and we didn't.
From the outside looking in, what do you think about the Dolphins?
Oof. The way it's being covered, it's like the sky is falling. I think you still have Tua Tagovailoa, who is a top tier quarterback. I think he is a guy that has proven he can win in this league. It's just about protecting him and keeping him healthy. And I think the defense played incredibly well towards the end of last year. You got to protect you got to protect Tua, and you want to see them be a little tougher. I think that's sort of it. And from everything I'm hearing from the guys that are covering that team right now, there is this kind of culture overhaul happening there with Mike McDaniel. And he does want to sort of take on more of that Ben Johnson style of holding guys accountable. It'll be interesting. I think, they can't win in the cold, and, they're not tough, and guys are pulling themselves out of games. I think you want to see sort of that toughness come back to life, that I think we saw in the Brian Flores years. That was a tough football team, and I don't know what happened when Mike McDaniel came, but it sounds like the guys are being really responsive to Mike McDaniel sort of changing his tone a bit with them and earning their respect in a different way.
What was your impression, not Dolphins related, again, outside looking in, something that was very different from when you were down here, of what the Florida Panthers have done?
Man, it's so fun. I'm so happy for them. I mean, because when I got there, Zaz, it was the COVID year. So that was the season when it was
They
sort
made
of
like
shut
the
down.
fake play. They made like the
They made the
fake
fake
playoffs.
playoffs.
Yeah.
Coach Q was still there. Like,
Yeah.
I just feel like I sort of got to see the rise, and that's so exciting, and it's so cool to see like Bill Zito have success, who was just the best. And I covered Paul Maurice getting hired right before I left, who was just such a wonderful person to meet in that moment. And I remember just in those early days of covering him, I'm like, man, I learned something every time I listened to this guy talk. It was one of those coaches that you cover and you're like, you can't miss a press conference. It actually reminds me a lot of what we're experiencing right now with Ben Johnson. You want to hear every word, and then you want to read the transcript and dissect it again. That's sort of how I feel, and I loved them. You know, there were some big moves made. Acquiring Matthew Tkachuk was a massive deal, and now you see him 2-time Stanley Cup champ back to back. It's so hard to do that back to back. You know, the second year you have a target on your back. Everyone knows you're the defending champ. So I'm so excited to see that for them. It's so fun for you guys. I mean, okay, South Florida hockey town. We love to see it.
It's so good. Lastly here, Ruthie, obviously it's a Bears town. Bears come first, but Caleb Williams compared to Connor Bedard, like how does the Chicago fan treat the two of them?
Yeah, it's tough because the Blackhawks had such a bad year. I mean, it was you really wanted to see Connor Bedard take another jump, and I think with the dysfunction there, it just didn't happen, and then it all sort of collapsed around him, and he kind of struggled through a little bit of last year. Connor Bedard is this like soft-spoken young kid, you know, who I think we can compare Caleb Williams to, and his stardom right now is PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, who's in a slump right now. But when the Cubs are good here, I mean, that is the city is on fire. So, and it's kind of cool. PCA and Caleb are friends, and they post about each other, and they're all rooting for each other. There's a very cool sort of like community when it comes to Chicago sports and the way that these teams kind of all rally around each other. It's been fun to be a part of. It's sports is religion here. It's just a great place to be. I'm so thrilled to be here. I obviously miss South Florida dearly. But it's a great town. And, you know, if the Blackhawks are good, we'll put Connor Bedard back up in that tier, but he's got a long way to go.
Great job, Ruthie. Great catching up with you. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us today.
So much fun. Thanks for having me, Zaz. All my love to you and to everyone in South Florida.